Shabbat Shalom. Snapshot 1. It's 1938, and Zev Jabotinsky is addressing a crowd of Jews in Poland, in Warsaw. For 3 years, he said, I have been imploring you, Jews of Poland, the crown of world Jewry. I have been appealing to you, warning you unceasingly about the catastrophe that is near. For my heart is bleeding that you, dear brothers and sisters, do not see the volcano which will soon begin to spew from its fires of destruction. I see a horrible vision. Time is growing short for you to be spared. I know that you cannot see it, for you are troubled and confused by your everyday concerns. Listen to my words at this, the 12th hour. For God's sake, let everyone save himself, so long as there is time to do so, for time is running short. In that very same speech, he assured the people of Poland, the Jews of Poland, that those who break the absolute "thou shalt not murder" restraint policy will be deemed, at least by Jewish history, as not guilty. For under these circumstances, he would argue, each person must choose between bad choices. It was 3 months later that the Nazi persecution of the Jews began. It was called Kristallnacht, 1938. Over a decade later, the great Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik, in the 1950s, because of the historical experience of Jewish powerlessness, created another moral imperative in Jewish thought, which was that Jewish blood cannot be cheap. He insisted that Jews must be willing to protect themselves. He shared, when God smote the Egyptians, God sought to demonstrate that there will always be an accountable city for the spilling of Jewish blood. At present, he wrote, it is necessary not only to convince the dictator of Egypt, Nasser, but also the Foreign Office in London and the sanctimonious members of the United Nations that Jewish blood is not cheap, that nations cannot react passively to attacks on their people. A second snapshot. The Prime Minister summons his cabinet to an emergency meeting. He looks drawn, grave. He had just authorized one of the most daring operations in Israeli history. The Israeli Air Force had taken off on a mission to destroy a nuclear reactor. The pilots would have to fly over hostile airspace, and failure could mean disaster. But for the Prime Minister, inaction was not an option. He was tormented by the weight of responsibility for millions of Israeli children, for the safety of the Jewish people. And for months, he carried that burden. He wrestled with the implication of action and inaction alike. Later, he would describe those sleepless nights and his thinking, what would become of our children if I do nothing? And what would become of our pilots if I did something? In the end, he decided that when I have to choose between saving the lives of our children or gaining the approval of the Security Council and all of our other fair weather friends, I much prefer to privilege the former. And so he gave the order. The planes flew. and within minutes, the reactor was reduced to rubble. This wasn't June 13th, 2025. It wasn't Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it wasn't Iran. This was June 7th, 1981, just hours before the holiday of Shavuot, in Iraq, Operation Opera, and Prime Minister Menachem Begin was the one who made that decision. Yehuda Avner replayed this historical moment in the book The Prime Ministers. He knew that on that mission, every Israeli pilot returned home safely, but he also knew that Begin sent a crucial message to the world that day, that never again means never again, and that Israel will not wait for permission to protect its people. Israel will not entrust the fate of Israel to others. Israel would act. And if the world condemned us, the very world that Israel had just saved from a nuclear-armed tyrant, so be it. So be it. Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik wrote about a shift in his essay Kol Dodi Dofek, a shift from fate to destiny. He explained that fate is what happens to us. It's the history that we inherit, the suffering that we are forced to endure, while destiny is how we respond, when we rise, when we act, and when we shape the future with our own hands. Menachem Begin was haunted by the Holocaust. He understood firsthand what it meant to be an object of history. He'd lived through the darkest chapters of Jewish suffering. He was born in Poland. He watched the world collapse under the Nazis. His own father was drowned in the river by the Nazis and died singing Ani Ma'amin, a song I believe, a declaration of faith, and Hatikva. His mother and his brother were murdered soon after, and he, Menachem Begin, was arrested by the Soviet police, imprisoned, interrogated, and put into solitary confinement. When he was finally free, he made his way to Palestine, and he lived in disguise on the move, the leader of the Irgun, an armed resistance fighters against the British. Begin was a man who knew what it meant to be hunted, voiceless, responsible for a people whose survival could no longer be left to chance. And so it would make sense that when faced with a threat of a nuclear Iraq, Begin opted not to wait. He opted not to seek permission. He acted. Begin chose destiny over fate because he understood the cost of passivity. And he vowed that the Jewish people would never again be helpless while danger encroached. He knew that a people in control of its own destiny does not outsource a decision to the UN or the international community or the editorial pages of the New York Times. He knew that we do not survive by letting others decide our fate. This week, again, Prime Minister Netanyahu had to make such a decision. As Michael Oren and Naftali Bennett and others would tell the story, there actually wasn't much of a decision to be made, because a nuclear Iran threatening to destroy and eradicate Israel and ultimately destroy America too had to be stopped. The future of the Jewish people, our very existence, depended upon it. Last night, a member of Knesset, 2 nights ago, Rabbi Gilad Kariv reminded us of Soloveitchik's message and of the impact of such a decision, even today. He sent a message of strength and hope and unity to Jews living in the diaspora, and in that message he said, "Last night, the state of Israel launched an unprecedented operation against the Islamic regime and the nuclear threat of Iran. At this critical hour, Israel is fulfilling its role to serve as a shield for the Jewish people wherever they may be. Moments like these," he continued, "remind us of the deep, vital, and mutual bond between Israel and Jewish communities worldwide. You strengthen us with your voices, action, and solidarity. And it is our duty as the nation state of the Jewish people to stand with you and support you through the challenges you face. We send you our heartfelt appreciation, a strong embrace, and a deep sense of shared responsibility." Today, he continued, "We stand alongside the commanders and soldiers of the IDF from all branches who are working around the clock to defend Israel and secure its future. Israel's strength is deeply rooted in its identity as a democratic, liberal, and Jewish state, a society committed to values of human dignity, freedom, and the rule of law for all. And it is this foundation that enables us to face existential threats with both power and a clear conscience. And it fuels our enduring hope and commitment for a future of peace. The spirit and the strength of Israeli society are reflected in the courage, professionalism, and values of all those engaged in both attack and defense. These qualities must also guide decision-making through this campaign with composure and full responsibility, placing national security and resilience above all else. This is the expectation of the Israeli public in this critical hour. And so I would like to thank you for your support and to wish you strength and success while facing all of the challenges that you already face and the challenges that you will face in the upcoming days. During this critical time, we understand more than ever the importance of community, social resilience, and solidarity. May the Lord give strength to his people, and may the Lord bless his people with peace. Signed, Member of Knesset, Rabbi Gilad Kariv, Jerusalem. This morning, our Parsha opened with the symbol of the menorah. 7 lights, all lit together, not one, but 7, standing strong together. What we know from all of the Jewish history is that when the Jewish people stands together, anything is possible. That when the Jewish people stand together, miracles happen. And when the Jewish people stand together, we know that we can do anything. And we have no better option than standing together as a united Jewish people, like the menorah, side by side, because it is true, our lives are inextricably linked. Shabbat Shalom.